you find adventure at the click of a button, or from the turn of a page, or the casting of a die. Join your hosts, Coniff and Shiloh, on an unforgettable journey. Questing the multiverse.
Shiloh, do you have any idea what you are supposed to do in the event you are standing in an elevator and it starts to free fall?
Probably try to get to the ceiling and hold on to the ceiling. I don't know.
Wrong. So a lot of people might answer that with saying, you got to jump right at the end. So that way, you know, like all the momentum, you just land. Doesn't work that way, one. But two, how are you going to time a jump in an elevator when you have no idea how close the bottom floor is? I guess there's the whole Hollywood thing of like the numbers, you know, counting down. I think if you were to hold onto the ceiling, the second you hit, you just go splat, like get wrenched off the ceiling. So what you're supposed to do, apparently, according to some random tweet I saw, is you completely lay flat on the elevator. So that way the area of force is spread out across your whole body rather than like just your 2 feet or whatever. So you just spread out, lay down, and hope for the best. Now, in this scenario, it's like, okay, well, if there's like 4 people on the elevator, like, what are you going to do? Just become like a
I guess you choke them out and then you quickly put them in the corner so you have plenty of room.
Or you lay them on the ground and then you lay on top of them so they cushion.
I like that. So choke them out and then spread them out like a carpet and then lay. I'm not advocating this, by the way, dear listeners. So please don't do this if you're trapped in an elevator and it's falling.
Yeah, unless you truly believe random.
Oh, Shiloh told me I could do this.
And we listen to Shiloh. We listen to what Shiloh says.
Yeah, because please don't do that ever.
Well, right out of the gate, we're going to hit it with a little of this. I love it every time.
Pick a card, any card.
Right out of the gate.
Right out of the gate. While you figure out the card, we're going to do a little deck of the many things. We're going to talk about what we've been up to. We're also going to talk about the Fallout TV show in this episode. Spoiler heavy. It's a very good show, but we will be talking about characters and events that happen and sort of revelations, and we'll give you a nice big spoiler warning when we're going to start that. So if you have not finished the season 1 yet, you should not listen at that point. But in the meantime, Shiloh, what has the deck got for us today? That one looks neat.
Balance.
Looks like a mix of Deathly Hollows and the pyramid ships from Destiny 2, and we'll see.
Yin and Yang.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Sith and the Jedi.
Yeah. Nice little
All right.
balance.
So the question from the balance card is, what is something that everyone looks stupid doing?
Taking photos in public of things or people. Like just, you always will look dumb doing it. Especially if you're like doing it for like social media and you're trying to get like neat angles and stuff, and you're like leaned down on the ground and you're like, oh, I gotta get it up. Yeah, you look like a dummy. I do it too, so.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Dummy.
That's a good question.
This deck is
the question should be, what is something that everyone doesn't look stupid doing? Something. Just trying to think.
What about driving?
I think for me,
Okay.
and it's probably, maybe this is an age thing, but maybe, I don't think it is, but people that are talking on the phone, but not really using a phone, like a headset, like earbuds or something, it looks like they're just
Okay.
talking to themselves. And,
No, I agree with that.
yeah.
I
mean,
that.
I don't think that's really an age thing. I think that's just we're not there yet technology-wise to where that's but then if you are a certified schizophrenic, then the future looks bright for you, because there will be everyone around that will be talking to themselves, but they'll really be talking to somebody else. So
Yeah, you just need to put earbuds in and
yeah, you'll be fine.
nobody will be the wiser.
So
Okay.
yeah, that I mean, that I guess that's my answer. I could probably think of a dozen other things, but I can't off the top of my head. So we're gonna go with
I like it. So you've got people taking photos in public, especially when they're trying to do the Instagram thing, especially when it's not a real camera, so cell phone photos. And then you've got people talking to themselves. No, talking on the phone without a phone in there. Apparently, the alpha generation does this for phone. Big surprise, right? Nobody's used one of these phones in 30 years, probably 20 years. I don't know.
yeah.
But there's just little things like that, like the pound sign is the hashtag. There's little just what how do you roll down a window in a car? Well, we crank it. Although, I haven't had to use a crank window in since I was a kid. But yeah, just little things like that. It's kind of funny. So taking photos in public with a smartphone and talking with earbuds. You look dumb doing it.
Yeah.
But don't stop, because that's technology in progress. I suppose.
guess.
I suppose. Shiloh, it is good to talk to you. What have you been up to in the land of life and gaming? The beautiful real life and then virtual life. You could say.
Real life, just lots and lots of work. Just trying to finish. Well, we finally got the table done.
That
early
big
this
one, right?
week. Yeah.
Yeah.
The big monstrosity. It's an 8+ foot table. Guys picking it up on tomorrow, Monday. If you're listening to this, which would be today, since we record in the past.
Time travelers,
Yes.
after all.
And then just normal work. I think after this next table we get done, I think I might just take a little break. I know we've got one lined up for a lady. She wants a couple of tables, if she still wants them by the time this all comes around. She said she wanted them by the end of the summer, so we'll see. But I think I'm just gonna take a little bit of break. Plus, with my dreaded cicadas coming and
Oh, yes.
the use of sanders and power tool, I don't think that those things are going to mix. I think that's where my unnatural fear of cicadas comes from, is when I was a kid mowing the lawn and getting swarmed by them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and gaming wise, a lot of Destiny 2.
Okay.
Yeah, I know Tempest sent me a message the other day. He's like, "Oh, are you fully back into Destiny 2?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, kind of. It's been a lot of fun. The new Onslaught mode is fun. Been kind of chumming around with our buddies, Prophetic Swine and Bunticles, who's come back to the game, and we've just been going through. We got our exotic bow from the Season of the Wish, the Wish Keeper, which is it was a whole mission that we had to go on through the season. It was pretty neat. It took us back to the Garden of Salvation of all things. So, which was wasn't just the original Black Garden. But yeah, it was a kind of a spin-off of that and a whole custom design mission, but it was really interesting and fun. Yeah, it also had a lot of Last Wish elements to it. They kind of like hodgepodged them together because it's Riven's storyline with her eggs and the Ahamkara.
Gotcha.
It's been an interesting storyline. I always like it when they go back to the Dreaming City and the Awoken and the Ahamkara and the Taken and all that kind of stuff. It's just kind of fascinating to me.
It feels very fantasy-like. So one thing that
I like it.
Yeah, one thing I've been thinking about is like the reason Destiny 2 lore is so interesting to me is that it is like space fantasy more than it is sci-fi. So sci-fi is like Dune, or sci-fi is like Mass Effect, to put it into another video game.
Mass Effect.
Or Starfield, right? Like sci-fi. But Destiny 2 is space fantasy, just like Star Wars is. And I really enjoy that because you get these elements of magic, for lack of a better term. It's the Force in Star Wars. It's the light or the darkness in Destiny. However, Mara Sov's not a guardian, and she has magic, right?
Magic.
So what is that? Do we know what that magic is? Yeah. And so it's very fascinating that the Ahamkara, there's magic associated to them. And then the Hive have magic. So it has all these elements that make it great for being not just, guns and technology and space and all that, but the fantasy elements too that I really, really like. So
yeah.
And the Dreaming City, like you said, is one of the cooler locations. Cooler. Yeah, the word didn't sound right. Especially in it's not in D1, but it is in D2. No. And I'm trying to recall, that was the Forsaken DLC when it first got added to D2. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And at first, when you went through the Forsaken campaign, it took a while. You had to kind of grind out to actually get to the Dreaming City. So
yes,
now it's kind of it's the only thing left from Forsaken. So,
sadly,
which I'm glad they didn't completely scrap that, even though they was at the Veil. No.
The Tangled Shore?
Tangled Shore, yeah. Even though they completely scrapped all of that, at least the Dreaming City is still there. So
yes. And one of my favorite PvP maps in Destiny 2 was that one that was set in the Dreaming City. You had an exterior pathway and an interior pathway, but it was, Dreaming City. And there weren't, I think that was the only Dreaming City PvP map. So I've just always loved the aesthetic of the Dreaming City. And I remember when you were playing Remnant 2, you kind of made that comparison with the Fae lady and stuff. Like it's got that vibe of like that dark fantasy aesthetic. And so it's just a really neat location in the Destiny universe, I think. So well, anything else you've been playing, or just Destiny 2?
That's really about it. I downloaded Fallout 4. I haven't completely played through Fallout 4, and with the TV show launching and us being completely caught up with that, it got that itch. I'm like, I thought about 76 too. I know Swan and Bunnacles are playing 76 on the PC. But I've tried, I've just played that game so much on console and got to multiple characters up to, the max level and onto that. It's not even really a grind. It's just doing the same in-game activities. I'm just like, I'm okay with that.
Well, our dear friend Jeff would tell you to wait on Fallout 4 until the 25th or the 26th, in which
I saw that they're having some mods.
Yep, the next gen update is coming out. So wait for that, and then because I also have been contemplating for, I don't know, there's like, we'll get into some of it when we get into the show, but it's no surprise. The show was a fantastic success, and so the sales of every Bethesda Fallout game has just gone, like, skyrocketed over the past, month, but few weeks. And so I'm like, I feel like I want to jump into 4. I've always wanted to play the Far Harbor DLC, never did. Played Nuka World. 4 was the first Fallout game that I ever personally played through and then beat. And then from there, I went and played Fallout 3, then New Vegas, and then 76. And I've played a little bit of 1, but I did that prior to our Divinity Original Sin, Baldur's Gate 3, our CRPG era, if you will, last year.
Yeah,
and it'd
be hard to go back to
right
after seeing that. Yeah.
But maybe now that I've got some of those games under my belt, I could make a push through it, but I feel like with that game, just to experience it, I'd want like a guide up the whole time to just be like, I don't want the optimal route. I don't want to have to like think things through. I just want to play and have fun just to experience it. But yeah. So wait till the 25th or the 26th or whenever it is. But
okay. And it's only for PC because I had downloaded it on the Xbox.
I thought it was for the Xbox Series X too, but maybe not.
The mods are? For the update?
No, well, yeah, they'll have mods on, yes. So mods are on the Xbox for Fallout. Wow. But this is a specific Bethesda license patch. It's a next-gen update. Like they've, like they did for Skyrim once upon a time. Although Skyrim released like on the Xbox 360. Times. So, no, did it? Was it? No, it released on the one, right? I don't know. Xbox. No, it has 11. Released. Yeah,
it was 360.
Skyrim's ancient. But anyway, I would say wait until then, and then you can dive in. If you do play on the either wherever you play, there are mods. It's just with Xbox, it's whatever people have put the effort into porting onto the Xbox. And, I played with, there's a few that offer a new companion or two. The ones that interested me were like Darker Nights, where they make like nighttime actually dark to make it a little more terrifying. And then there was like a Rad Storm Plus one. There was like a greener wasteland, so there's more like trees and foliage, feels a little bit more wild. And then there's all sorts of like actual additional things that are interesting, but yeah, so you've never played Fallout 4?
No, I've played it, but not.
Did you beat
not
it?
Very deep. No.
Okay.
No.
Yeah,
so
I think you'll like it.
That's the main reason why. I think when it came out, I was just. Yeah. I don't even know. When did the game come out?
That one's 2014 or 2015, but yeah.
Yeah, that was a dark place, and I was in a dark place around that time, so there wasn't a chance in hell I was ever going to be able to play that game. So I missed the boat, and I'm looking forward to maybe jumping into that.
Yes. There's no, like, the camp building is not the same. Like, camp building in 76 is better, but I really enjoyed Boston, and I really enjoyed the story, even though people were kind of like whatever on it, but I really liked it in Fallout 4. And of course, like, if you've played 76, you know that like they returned to the 3 in New Vegas style of dialogue, where like you've got all these perception, whatever, typical RPG stuff. Well, 4 is very basic, where you only have 4 options. Sometimes you get like a charisma option and whatever, but like it was very basic. So a lot of people hated that, but not me. I was new and I didn't really know better, and I liked hearing a voiced protagonist, so that was or voiced main character. So player character, that's the word. I'll get there someday. So as for me and what I've played, it's been a little of a bunch of stuff. I've played Dead Cells primarily the past week, which is a roguelite sort of Metroidvania platformer style fighting game. It's very addictive because with roguelites, like, your purpose is you're not going to beat it your first try. But each time you do a run, like, you're unlocking things that you can use on future runs and all sorts of things like that. Most listeners that have been around in gaming, if they know roguelites, Dead Cells is one of the most popular ones. But they recently, within like the last month, said that they're doing no more DLCs for the game. It's complete, and there's like four DLCs plus a Castlevania themed DLC. Now this game has introduced a ton of like other IPs into it as Easter eggs. So, and they're going to be a lot of roguelite references. So like Risk of Rain 2, there's a weapon, I think it's the banjo from that. And then there's like a skin that you can wear that's one of those characters. Slay the Spire, the giant whale that gives you your first artifact whenever you start a run. I ran into that in this game, and then he gave me an item. There's references to Half-Life. There's references to Hollow Knight. There's references to Shovel Knight. There's all these like Half-Life's not an indie game, but like there's all these references to indie games in the same genre, not in the same genre. It's pretty fun, but overall I've been putting a lot of time playing that as more of like my brain needs to be shut off, so I'm just going to do action things. I don't think I've had as busy of a week as you have at work, but like mentally by the end of the work day, I'm just like, I don't want to do like a team-based this or that. I just want to jump into this game, go until I die, and I always die, and then start over and do it again. I think I played within this past week Portal Reloaded, which is a Portal 2 mod that introduced a time portal. And I have found out very quickly that I am not that smart when you introduce the concept of the future and the present into a Portal game. My brain like simply just does not figure these things out sometimes. But it's been fun, and I've been working through that with Metalis, our friend. And then I think the last, aside from Fortnite, which is my sort of, if I do want to group with people, I've been getting hit up a lot by some old college friends. They want to play Fortnite. The Avatar: The Last Airbender event is in the game. They've added a ton of new songs, including Carry On My Wayward Son by Kansas and Don't Fear the Reaper by Blue Oyster Cult. They actually added those like a month and a half ago, but finally they're adding some more rock oriented songs in there. No Taylor Swift yet though, Shiloh, which I'm waiting.
That's good.
It'll happen, but we'll see. And Taylor Swift just released a new double feature album. That's big news, I think. For the Swifties of the world, and the Swifties in our friend group, which is you and Sonny. Yeah. Big shout out to Sonny, who probably got ridiculed. I haven't had a chance to set the record straight with everyone in the Loreforge community, and just posting a picture of the greatest Warden healer in all of ESO. Taylor Swift, let's go. So she is the greatest Warden healer. And then finally, the last thing I have done is played Final Fantasy XIV. I am pretty content in that being my MMO for now. And I wanted to just throw this at you, which may be slightly, I don't know, it's not controversial, but it's like, where does your heart lie? If you had to, from right now, in this, the way you're feeling today on this Sunday, which was a very cold Sunday in Missouri comparatively to the past week, if you had to pick only a single MMO, and we're talking traditional MMO, so I'm excluding Destiny 2 from this consideration.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
If you could only pick one MMO to play for the rest of your life, and that means throwing in sort of not the towel, throwing all your bets are on this game to continue, all your chips on the table. You're like, this is the one I would play for the rest of my life because this one I think is going to have the longest future, or maybe not the longest future, but you're certain it's going to be around for the foreseeable future. Which MMO would you pick?
We're talking about just as an IP.
No, just IP? of all the ones that are playable to right now. Which one?
Well, even though it may change 4 or 5 years from now, but I'd probably still play Guild Wars 2.
Okay. I still think Guild Wars 2 is my favorite MMO, but I think I might be leaning towards Final Fantasy 14 for such a question, simply because of the sheer amount of content that's in the game that is like group oriented, but also solo plus story. And then plus the fact that it seems like it's got a pretty clear future. With that said, part of what swayed me that way was our discussion on these rumors on Guild Wars 3. Because is Guild Wars 2 going to be a long-term, it's 10 years, but like continued long-term investment for ANET, or are they going to, move on? Whereas I don't really see them coming out with a Final Fantasy 18 that's an MMO, or a Final Fantasy 19 that's whatever the number is at the point. So I don't know, but I've been loving Final Fantasy 14. It's really grabbed my attention now with the storytelling, but also with just the sheer variety in group content, from dungeons to the raids and to the trials. And trials in this case are like one boss, fight to the death. The raids are more, I guess, bigger dungeons, if you will. And then, of course, dungeons are dungeons, but the thing is, like, I was looking up all the different dungeons that exist in the game, and there's like 90 plus, 96, I think it was, something crazy. So, well, that's all I've done in the past week. I don't have a fun little Fallout soundbite, I don't think. I'm looking at my little soundboard. Do I have any? No, that won't work. No, that's... Well, I guess this kind of works because the show is set not quite
2,000 years later,
but 200 years later. So, Shiloh, let's dig in to Fallout, the TV show, from the beginning to the end of this first season. Listener, now is your warning. If you have yet to finish the show and do not want things spoiled for you, turn this episode off now, and probably just wait until you've watched the show to listen to this episode, because we're going to go not very comprehensive, but we're definitely going to be talking episode by episode quickly of the important plot points and our thoughts on characters and events and whatever else. And Shiloh and I are long-term Fallout fans, so really this is just going to be us really talking about all that we enjoyed with this lovely violent comedy, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know how.
Okey dokey.
Okie dokie.
Let's get started.
Let's get started. So first things first, Shiloh, and we're just gonna wing this because honestly, I think that's the best discussions on these type of things. Okay. Who is your favorite character? The whole show, favorite character?
Lucy.
Okay. I think I agree with you there.
Yeah. I think most people would go with either Lucy or Cooper, what do you want to say?
Yeah.
It is kind of funny if you think about it. Kyle MacLachlan's in the show, and he played Agent Cooper.
He did.
Twin Peaks.
On Twin Peaks.
Just made that correlation. We have Cooper played by Walton Goggins. Goggins.
Walton Goggins. Yep.
Goggins.
I read it was like a random comment on Reddit, and they're like, man, Walton Goggins is a better Fallout name than Cooper Howard. I was like, yeah, I could see that.
Evidently in Fallout 76, they put an update to the game post-show, and now they have Cooper Howard, you can find posters.
Nice.
If they're for your house, or you can find them out in the world or what, but I thought that was a nice touch that they're incorporating that sort of thing.
Yeah.
In fact, we won't get into it right now, but the idea of a TV show and a video game being tied together has always kind of fascinated me, like basically taking two mediums and kind of crunching them together and doing it very well. It's been tried in the past, and I think we've talked about, maybe not on Questing the Multiverse, but probably on GG Party Chat, about this idea. And I think Defiance 2025, which was just the TV show Defiance on the Sci-Fi Network.
Okay.
And they tried that, and it just didn't. I don't know. It depends on who you ask, if the show was better than the game or the game was better than the show. But neither was completely very well embraced, so it just kind of fell flat. And but with Todd Howard being an executive producer for the TV show, and of course being Bethesda's, brainchild,
Bethesda's God, I guess. God Howard.
And Fallout 5 is yet to be released, and probably years away from doing that. Who knows? I mean, maybe this could be...
I thought about that too. Obviously, Elder Scrolls 6 is coming next. We actually know that's in the pipeline.
Excuse me.
But I think the success of this show is like basically a guarantee that we're going to get a Fallout 5.
Oh, yeah.
It'll be curious to see. I would not be surprised to see cameos from the show in that game. Mm-hmm. What Bethesda really needs to do is, one, develop or just use Unreal Engine 5. So develop a new engine or just use Unreal Engine 5. Mm-hmm. And then two, work. I mean, the writing in this show was so good. So just maybe bring those writers in, be like, why don't you write this video game story for us? And it will be a smash hit, I think. But the first thing and the most important thing is stop using the creation engine. Let it die and use a new engine, or just go to Unreal Engine 5. All the big name people. Although, I don't know, CD Projekt Red has their own engine, I think.
Yeah, well, Bungie has their own. And that's the whole, what is Destiny 3, if that's going to be a thing. They got to scrap their old engine. Bethesda needs to do the same. I mean, we kind of saw that very, very prominently in Starfield, I think. It was just the limitations of,
for sure,
what that is. And then you play a game like Remnant 2, and you're like, what gives,
right?
But
that's a really good point to those things, off topic of the show. But
either develop a new. I guess that's the thing. Developing an entirely new engine, if you want to do that, that's a whole process, and probably takes more years upon what it would normally take to release a game. So, but it's a necessary evil, I think, especially for Bethesda, because they use the same engine for they're going to use it probably for Fallout 5 and for Elder Scrolls 6. So
I thought I heard they were doing a new engine for 6, but then again, I thought I heard that they were doing a new engine for Starfield. And then again, I thought I heard they were doing a slightly new engine for Fallout 76. So who knows? But the point is, this Fallout TV show has brought probably millions of fans back into the Fallout universe with a vengeance, not a vengeance, but like with, gusto, because it did such a good job of capturing the show's or the IP's aesthetic and vibe. And so the first section here, characters that I'm going to, we're going to run through. Lucy. What do you like about Lucy as far as maybe her approach to the wasteland goes, her approach to life, perhaps?
Yeah, it's just a very, very funny, kind of if you're playing the game, you kind of go into this world almost a lot like Lucy, and you come out of it at the very end, probably also a lot like Lucy. Like you're just exposed to
a constant
the radiation
state of
for
shock.
one. Yeah, it's just like, okie dokie, near the end there. It's kind of that.
Yes.
Okie dokie.
That's a good point. It was a change in tonality on her usual jovial okie dokie, which it's just so, her character's just so good for that, because like you said, like Ella Purnell plays this innocent sort of blank slate character so well. And it's funny because her expectation is she's going to go up to the the surface and get her dad back, and the go up to the surface and get her dad back, and nothing about the in-between part that's going to take. She's just going to take it in stride, but
But yet, it's just the way her character is. She's also not completely naive or not.
No, she's not dumb either. Like she's intelligent.
Yeah.
So
she just kind of says it like it is. And there's a line where about the golden rule that she kind of goes to Walter. The ghoul. To Coop, and near the very end there, she kind of throws it back at his face, and it's kind of classic. So we can't say it on the air.
There's a lot we can't say on the air, because especially there's a specific scene with Maximus, who we'll get to, and Lucy in Vault 4 when they're talking about. She's just like, so do you want to have sex? Which is, and again, so listener, this show is not family friendly. If you don't know anything about the Fallout universe, it's very violent, and it's actually surprisingly, there's like no sex, nothing like that, but it's very gory, very violent, and there's typically a lot of language in the video games. But it plays to her character so well to be so flippant with that question to someone she just met, because the vaults, the entire purpose of the vaults is to, and hers specifically, was to eventually go repopulate the earth. Obviously episode 1 is about her wedding to, surprise, a raider. And so right after they consummate their marriage, the raiding starts happening, and so there's a whole ordeal. But it plays into her character so well, because it's like her idea of the surface is like, we got to do that, got to repopulate the earth, and the reclamation day or whatever that there's talk about in their vault. So that's a funny scene. But yeah, what you're talking about when she comes out of the super duper mart and gives the ghoul, I don't know what it is in the lore, but some drug that staves off him becoming a feral ghoul. And she's just like, golden rule, motherfucker. you know.
Yeah,
Just
I don't know if that's actually in any of the games.
I don't
but
think so.
think they just kind of had to add that to
make it
but
give
then
it
again,
a
if
bit
you-
of an answer. Maybe
There are ghouls that aren't quite feral out in the world that you meet, and I think of 76. Of course, they initially in 76 when we first started playing, there weren't any NPCs. It was just all
yes.
notes and computer doc holotapes and whatever. But now they've added NPCs, but you meet a ghoul at the little starting area at the bar with what's her face. But yeah, it's
Yes.
I don't know if that drug it really exists in the Fallout universe, but it either
does
way,
now
it's-
because this is
yeah,
canon.
it's-
Apparently,
it doesn't really matter. It's just some little prop that they can keep, and it makes it interesting. Maybe there is. I don't know. Maybe if you're listening and you're like, oh well, actually,
Yeah, because you meet ghouls in Fallout 4. Hancock is one of them. In I don't know what that town. Maybe it's the town of Hancock, but his name is Hancock. It's where the railroad is based, and he's a ghoul. And to my knowledge, they don't ever mention why ghouls sometimes go feral and other times don't. I'm sure there's a talk of it somewhere, and I just don't remember it. But now the show seeks to explain it, and that's a plot point, at least for the ghoul. Kind of gives him some drive. So Lucy, great character. Sort of the opposite to, let's talk about the ghoul, Cooper Howard, Walton Goggins' character. If Lucy is this innocent blank slate of a character going into the wasteland, the ghoul or Cooper Howard is a not innocent, completely covered slate with all sorts of experiences over the past 227 years or whatever it is. And boy, does that make for an interesting dynamic when those two characters finally meet and start interacting. And it's very good, honestly. Both of those characters are fantastic. The ghoul is really well done. What did you think of that character?
oh yeah, I love this character too. It just he is obviously they designed him to kind of play on a lot of Western. He has John Wayne lines that I think there's a lot of callback to like the good, the bad, the ugly. There's lots of Western references with Cooper's character, but he's a very good jaded wastelander. Obviously scarred, but he's got the resources and the know-how and the shot to pull off a lot of interesting things. So it'll be fun to have these two we already said there's spoiler warning, but
There will be spoilers.
and they kind of ride off into
The sunset, if it were.
to the end of season 1, and and season 2 has already been confirmed. So
Oh yeah.
I'm looking forward to that whenever that comes down the pipeline. But
I like that the show opens with his character pre-bombs dropping. And then, like, a lot of people are, like, Lucy's the main character, but it's almost more like the ghoul is, because, again, the show opens with his character, and then as you're going through this season, the driving force for him is tied into a revelation about Vault 32 and 33 and 31 that might help him find his wife and daughter. And so it's going to be interesting to see, what happens in season 2 regarding that. but I loved all the pre-war or the pre-bombs flashbacks with him and his wife, and as he gets deeper into the Vault Tech world, being kind of their Captain Obvious of the Vault Tech universe, just their poster child with his thumbs up. And there's a lot of dynamics there, because you see pre-bombs this family first, he's an actor, famous, but like he loves his wife, loves his daughter. His just demeanor is different, and his demeanor when he 200 years later as the Ghoul is obviously like he's done a lot of things to survive. Some of them probably not so great, and his sole purpose is to find his wife and find his daughter, and we'll see how that if it plays out entirely in season 2.
Yeah, and what will he do? When he does,
because his wife is complicit in the bombs, and that was a revelation.
And they're divorced, right?
Did they
before.
say that? Like
because the guy jokes about it in the photo session. He's like, how'd you get Cooper Howard to be like? He's like, oh, alimony.
Oh,
so
okay. Yeah, I missed that.
It's implied that he probably called it off at some point before the bombs dropped, and I don't know. I don't know if it's ever assumed that maybe he got his daughter to his wife, and that he was trapped out because they weren't together. And
I think that's what people are kind of assuming, because the alternative is that his daughter's dead. Which is a bit morbid, and
I'm
even for Fallout.
I can't remember if he mentions I'm gonna go find my.
He says family. Where's my family?
He does family.
Yes.
So I don't know. Is it implied in the show? I don't think it's. I think it's just left unsaid. But when he's riding around on horseback with his daughter, and the bombs are going off like every. You
was
and
a
I
sick
looking like, well,
rip.
Yeah, which he gives her the whole thing that he learned in the military with the thumbs up, which is kind of another callback of if the bomb is bigger than your thumb, then don't bother running.
Yeah, it's like don't worry about it.
She says the classic little line of my thumb or yours. But then, I just don't know if she made it. It'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. But that's something to look forward to. Another thing to really I'm wondering about it with the show, if they're going to continue the show for multiple years, and I'm assuming that this is going to be a good hit for Amazon.
Yeah, probably one of their best.
Keep it going for who knows. Will this just be the story of Lucy and Cooper, or will one of these characters be the main thread, and then we'll have other new characters that will come into, basically almost making it like a Fallout game, like you have a new vault dweller that maybe shows up after two years, and Lucy kind of has her story, finished. Because that would make a little bit more sense if you had almost Cooper being the quote unquote main antagonist or whatever, or protagonist. I guess he's the anti-hero, but so he could be both. But you could have him be the common thread, and then have a new a new vault dweller come into the show with a different spin. I don't know. That would be kind of an interesting take on the whole spin, but anyway, so are we still on episode 1?
Well, we're not really
doing episode by episode, just
sort of, but it kind of depends on the character. So the third and probably final main character that we would probably talk about is Maximus. So he's a Brotherhood originally an initiate in episode 1. I can't remember. No, I think it's episode 1 where he ends up becoming a squire to Knight Titus. And so it's nice to see these 3 different lifestyles, if you will. You've got the vault, and then you got the vault dweller with Lucy. You've got just a wasteland survivor with Coop, and then you've got a sort of military remnant of Maximus and the Brotherhood. And I thought they did the Brotherhood very well. I have never been one to really like the Brotherhood in Fallout. Typically because I am not the type of person to want to go down the story route of like the basic like grunt military, narrative.
Yeah. If you throw the 2 words that I'm probably not keen to, or military and cult, and you put those 2 together and I'm like, nope, big no for me, dog. I'm out.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I still find it fascinating because it is both of those things kind of thrown together. Of course, it's easy to say, well, there are so many cults in the Fallout world. Like the Enclave's probably a cult. Vault, every vault is probably in some way, shape, or form a cult.
We see it in this show later on, and we'll
With
get
Vault 4.
Yeah, we'll get to that in another section. But the way Maximus goes, I feel like obviously we see Lucy's character development from Vault to like the end, and that's great to see because it's a pretty steady, change throughout the whole show. Cooper, his character's more complex because he's the way he is the first time you see him in episode 1. I think that's episode 1. All the way to the end. Like, he's the same. But the reason his character development is so good is because of the contrast in the pre-bombs dropping scenes we get. And so that's nice. Maximus is weird. His character's weird. His character, I think, is designed to be this uncomfortable. I mean, he was raised by these Brotherhood Knights. We see him multiple times hop out of the fridge, which I think is a hilarious. Isn't that a reference to Indiana Jones or something?
Yes,
Before Indiana Jones.
A quest in Fallout 4, evidently.
Yes.
I haven't done it.
Yes,
but
the boy in the fridge.
Boy in the fridge, I think, is the name of the quest. But yeah, that is an Indiana Jones reference.
Okay, so
which was originally an Indiana Jones reference in Fallout 4, but yeah.
So it's fun, but he's a kid. He's probably like 8 or 9 in that scene. And if you've watched it, that's at Shady Sands, which is a major plot point in the last part of the season. But he's a kid that was raised by the Brotherhood. So the way he's turned out, the way Thaddeus, is that the other one's name? With the mustache? With
the mustache, yes.
Yeah, not Dane. But the way that Maximus, his character is it makes sense. Like, he's this weird, sort of uncomfortably odd person, but like pretty innocent, I think. And that's what's really nice about his characters. Like, they could have made him just this weird, creepy person with a sort of negative twist or a negative turn. But for this season, at least, he's very much like, like he's true to his word. Once he finds Lucy, like, he realizes there's a better life than the Brotherhood. And so that's great. But like, yeah, just some of I can't quite wrap my head around that character. I like him, but there's just, he's different. Like, the scenes at the very beginning with Knight Titus, he's very skittish. And Knight Titus is is a dick, so that makes sense.
Yeah, most of Michael Rappaport's characters are just total D-bags, so it was good to see him kick it. Yeah, it is an interesting character just because he was raised by this strange military cult that basically goes out and finds technology and kind of hoards it for themselves. And that's basically their sole purpose in America.
So other people can't abuse it. Meanwhile, they're going to abuse it because it's the Brotherhood.
So you could understand maybe why this character is basically an orphan that was, raised by this strange military cult. I mean, I guess, and he doesn't necessarily fit in. Like a lot of these other teenage boys or, young men, whatever you want to call them, were probably wanted to do this. I don't know where they came from, how they got to the Brotherhood of Steel, but maybe they were, this is what we want to do. This is what we do, and he's basically just been raised as a kid into this, and then he doesn't really have any other mindset or any focal point or anything else that he knows other than being trapped in a fridge, probably. The Brotherhood rescuing him, and now he's kind of indebted to them. So it's this weird kind of, but he also probably really wants to get out. Dane has that line where he's, because he's talking to Dane after he meets Lucy when he goes back to the Brotherhood and brings him Benjamin from Lost's Head.
Well, the fake one.
The fake one, sorry. The smashy, gooey one. Obviously it doesn't, he doesn't fool anybody with that. But, but Dane is like, there is no leaving. You're never going to leave. So it'll be interesting to see, but you kind of, it is very, I don't think you're meant to be like, oh yeah, I really, really like this character. I don't think, at least I don't think you are, because
I don't think so either.
I sure didn't. He has some interesting, funny stuff that he does in the show, mainly with Lucy,
that we can't say on air,
and the episode with Vault 4, that he gets the robe and the slippers and
the popcorn and the oyster crackers, or maybe the real oysters. I don't remember.
Yeah. We don't have oysters in my vault, but we have canned tuna.
It's freaking Lucy. Those three are pretty. All the supporting characters, though, are great. I mean, from Michael, what's his face, Emerson, one who plays Wilzig, who I just call Benjamin Linus because that was his character in Lost. To the store clerk in the town of Philly, even to Moldova, what's her name? Moldover, something.
Moldover.
She's great. You've got that traveling snake oil salesman who has a funny little interaction later with Thaddeus.
The chicken guy.
The chicken
lover.
That was hilarious. And so there's a lot of those things. Even the two dudes in the supermarket, the Super Duper Mart.
Super Duper Market.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those guys are great. And of course you have the robot, Mr. Handy.
Yeah.
With the voiceover from, I can't remember the actor's name, that he was in Cooper's dream, like flashback mode, where he's at the party and he's like, you're talking about his Benjamin Cogsworth voice and doing it for these two ladies to kind of impress them out by the pool.
Yep.
This is really funny. The big this was kind of a funny. Well, there are actually two funny cameos in the show. One's Chris Parnell as the overseer of Vault 4 with the Cyclops.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not well versed in like actors and actresses, so you'll have to kind of like lead that. But I recognized him, but I don't know what from. Like I've seen that actor before. Although with
been
two
on-
eyes, of course, not
Yeah.
not the
It's very
Cyclops
distracting.
version.
The
It
way
was.
they kind of. It was like, they just
Had to kind of look away.
Make it
when
one
he started.
eyebrow or something. I think that might have helped. I don't know. But yeah, all those guys in Vault 4 were a little weird.
Who was the other cameo?
But Fred Armisen from Portlandia and Saturday Night Live. Chris Parnell's been on Saturday Night Live too, mainly with like Andy Samberg. He did some shorts with him. He's also a voice on the TV show Archer.
Okay.
So, which is an animated comedy spinoff thing. He does a lot of animated voiceovers and stuff. So you've probably heard his voice more than actually seen him.
Which one is this?
Chris Parnell.
What about the other one you were saying?
Fred Armisen. He's been in Portlandia and Saturday Night Live.
Who was he in this?
He was the radio DJ.
Yes. Okay. Yes. I knew. I was like, he looks familiar.
Yeah, he was also
I've seen
in
him in Portlandia.
Adams in Wednesday as Uncle Fester, I think. I think he was Uncle Fester.
Really? Mm-hmm. I'd have to look that up. I'd have to rewatch it.
He's been in a lot of stuff too. But yeah, there was a lot of side characters in the show that were very, very good.
Yes.
I'm going over, I think one thing that we could talk about, if we're not going to hit on every episode because that could be boring, but I think that what we touched on last week was the level of detail for the show.
Yes.
And I kind of went over some Easter eggs because even if you haven't played a Fallout game, you'll recognize some of this stuff. I know I was watching Alana Pierce, who's been on IGN. I think she's a freelancer now, but she's Australian, kind of pretty girl. She did a lot of stuff with IGN, but she was saying that she got to go to the premiere and that she came back to watch the show with her mom, and her mom was laughing and recognized all this stuff from like her playing games and her having like bobbleheads and stuff like that. Like she completely knew what this stuff was. So it'll be interesting to see if you have new people that will come and play Fallout now just because of the TV show. Like I think the TV show is good enough, kind of like The Last of Us, where I'm sure that there have been people that have watched that show and not played the game. Like me, I haven't played The Last of Us.
Or like Arcane, although League of Legends doesn't translate in the same way. It doesn't translate
well,
but,
yeah. But the Fallout TV show is pretty much like playing the game. You know, you can play the game, and it's it's not nearly as in depth or TV centric. It's not necessarily completely focused on story all the time.
Well, like the pacing is a video game pacing as opposed to like a TV show pacing.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be as funny as frequently as the show was, or as like violent. Like there are long stretches of Fallout 4, let's say, where you're just shooting ghouls and hunting for loot in abandoned buildings. Like, there's a lot of that. Nothing is happening that is moving a story along. So
but yeah, it'll be interesting to see. But I guess the one I just wanted to kind of touch on a few Easter eggs. If you think of any, I think one of the biggest, most interesting, I guess I'll just start from the top. I got this article pulled up for just called the Gamer website. I don't know. It's always hard on the internet when you just want to find a actual article that doesn't link to a video. There you got to,
or has a bajillion ads.
So I guess the first one that they mentioned, their number one, was the New Vegas Easter eggs, which the biggest being that the end of the show, you see New Vegas. That's another game I have not played, and I know that our friend Hazy loves New Vegas.
Hazy's very good. It's probably the best story out of all of them.
Yeah. So this leaves me pretty excited about
Maybe
next season of the TV show. You've got there's a lot of different Easter eggs. I guess the Robco guy with the mustache at the
he's Mr. House, who is
Mr. House. Yeah,
a big part of New Vegas,
the big villain
in a way,
the big bad in New Vegas, evidently. And he's also the CEO of Robco, right? Which you see Robco stuff in '76, and it's just a big corporation with robots. That's where all the big robots are made, the Assaultrons, which you see.
You do see an Assaultron.
Yeah, Lucy passes one in the sands.
That's episode 1, I think, or episode 2, whenever she leaves. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's what was it? The guys that are the two dudes that are with the metal detectors have the suits,
the NCR suits. Yep.
Yeah.
New California Republic.
New Vegas. So
yes, that's why this show I think has done so well. Is so Bethesda, they did Fallout 3, and then Bethesda Studios made Fallout 3. But then they outsourced Fallout New Vegas to Obsidian. And so Obsidian does Fallout New Vegas. And originally, people seem to, because nowadays it's revered as one of the best of the Fallout games. But when it came out, people didn't like it because 1, it was buggy, and 2, it wasn't Fallout 3. And so people can say what they want, but like the initial reaction to New Vegas was not just this is the greatest thing ever. But New Vegas nowadays is highly regarded, and so the fact that Bethesda was like, this show should tie into New Vegas, and it makes sense because the show's set in California, and New Vegas is set in Nevada, Vegas,
Yeah, but not Vegas.
But not Vegas. But so it makes sense, and so all those little Easter eggs that reference New Vegas are just, like chef's kiss, because it's, it's just fan service, but it fits. It's fan service that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Oh, the actor's name that did the voice of Mr. Handy and Codsworth was, his name's Matt Berry, evidently.
Okay. Is it the same guy that's in the show that did the voice for all the games?
Not sure,
because he does a very good job if they're not the same.
Yeah, it's very good. I guess he plays I need to watch this show, What We Do in the Shadows. Evidently, it's a very funny, good show. But
what else?
Anyway,
what other Easter eggs?
So the water chip callback to the first Fallout game. I don't remember this. I have played the first Fallout. You have the guy that shows up in Vault 33, and he's like, yo, we're water chips busted. We're about to run out of water. And they haven't really addressed that in the TV series since. So it'll be interesting when old Betty's like, hey, we got 2 days left. What are we going to do? Especially now that Norm is beaten down hatches. So Norm is a character, Lucy's brother, who could be 16
character.
Years old or 55. I don't really know. He's somewhere in it's like, is he her younger brother, or
he's definitely her younger brother?
Yeah, he's only, that actor's only 5'1". Like, I saw him, I'm like, this guy is really short, or if they've done something like
Magic
Peter Jackson to make Elijah Wood and Sean Austin just look like little miniature people, but no, he's 5'1". Like, they have what's the guy's name? Chip, Lucy's cousin,
Chet.
Chet. Initially I thought, God, is that guy just huge? Is he like 6'7" or something? But no, this little actor that plays Norm is 5'1". So. But he looks like he could be either 16 or 55. I don't really know.
It's hard. Yeah,
so I don't know if he's Lucy's younger. I think he's supposed to be Lucy's younger brother. But he's actually interesting at the end of the show. Like, he's kind of got this whole Inspector Gadget, Nancy Drew thing going on where he's trying to investigate what exactly is going on with between Vault 33, Vault 32, and Vault 31 that are all interconnected. So
he's probably the fourth main character, I would say.
It could be.
And it helps because like at that point in the show, Vault 33, they got attacked by the Raiders, in the episode 1. So a lot of them died, but they're there. And so you see a lot of the same characters like Chet, like Stephanie, the pregnant lady who has her baby. Then Betty, Reg, and one of the other guys that, campaign for being overseer. So those characters, I love the Vault 31, 33, 32 stuff. It's very Fallout. And that's the thing too, right? Like I did have to talk about the vaults here, but if you have, before we do that, if there's any other of those Easter eggs that catch your eye.
No, just the hacking. I was gonna.
When he
initially
hacks.
when Norm's hacking, and it's just spot on, exactly like
from the game.
All the hacking that you do in 76. It's all the hacking, I guess, you do in Fallout 4. So
all of them, yeah.
Maybe all the games. I don't know, but it's an interesting. It was just funny. I'm like, oh, this.
I'm waiting for the bobby pin reference.
Yeah, the bobby pin lock picking. That'd be interesting.
But so like just to carry on with that because the vault part was kind of the last thing I was going to touch on, along with what we think is going to happen in season 2. Yeah. But Easter eggs like the stim packs look spot on, the Radaway spot on, the 10mm pistol, everything. The power armor looks fantastic. That's the thing. Like you watch the show and you're like, okay, so whoever is the showrunner here was like, I want to just make it like the video games. And it's like, why can't some of these other showrunners get that into their head? It's like, don't try to outsmart the IP and the fans.
Yeah, or try to over-explain it. I know that I really enjoyed the fact that when they use a stim pack, it does exactly what happens in the game, and you just become healed. And they don't really explain it, or they don't have. I know when I mentioned Alana Pierce, she was talking about this, and it was just kind of like, I'm just so glad that they didn't try to make a stupid, little comment or something like, oh, well, that was fast. Or, every time they, would use a stim pack, which I guess is not very often, but when Lucy kind of uses one and finds one after she gets stabbed or what happens to her.
It's just, she's like, all right, now she does bandage up her wound.
Yeah, which, you should do anyway, I guess. But I mean,
but she was fine. Yeah.
It just, that's what happens. That's what happens in the game. And, you don't need to make some big deal and try to over-explain it. And, it's just, it is what it is. And the Pip-Boy picking up radiation, that sort of thing. Like, you don't really need to sit there and explain it to the normal viewer. Like, it does what it's supposed to do. Like, it's, you could watch the show and just be like, okay, that's just a really advanced form of medicine, even though it's in this weird looking rusty metal turkey baster thing. It looks like it do more harm than good, but whatever. It's a stim pack.
Same with the Radaway, where Lucy starts getting radiation sickness because
it's like an IV bag with Kool-Aid in it, and
it just makes her better
to go. Yeah,
because that's what it does in the game. If you get radiation in the games, you take one of those, your radiation's gone. It's unless you're a bloodied
good as new
in 76, and then you live to be irradiated.
You need that, keep that radiation high.
Yes. I think the last probably Easter egg before we talk about vaults, unless you think of another one, is
there's so many.
There is, but the last important one is the Deathclaw skull that Father McLean I don't remember his
Hank
McClane in the power armor
Henry
suit
Hank, yeah.
walks by on his way to New Vegas at the very end, you know. And here's the thing. So about this ending is I had multiple people tell me before I was finished that I was going to love the ending. And I'm watching the show and I'm looking at the episode. And at one point, I think it was right when they, when Lucy and Ghoul walk off into out of Moldover's
The
observatory.
Yeah.
After she enacts the cold fusion power.
Yeah.
There was like not much time left on the episode, and I was like, well, where's this just the extreme ending like moment that people keep telling me about? And it was literally the last scene with New Vegas there. But yeah, seeing that Deathclaw skull, like, you know that Deathclaws are coming. Deathclaws are probably the most infamous of all the Fallout beasts. So
Yeah.
oh man.
Yeah, it'd be interesting because if you think about it, we have not yet seen, number one, a super mutant other than maybe a hand underneath a blanket.
Yes.
We haven't seen a sheep squash. We haven't seen a lot of...
I feel like you won't get those Fallout 76 ones,
yeah,
though.
we may not. I mean, but it would be funny if they had, like, down the road, if you see the Mothman, you know, if you see Sheep Squatch, if you see some of these cryptids that show up in 76, because who knows, they could be going from west to east.
Yeah.
You know, who's to say that they won't?
And this show is set after, well, you got to think too, Fallout 76 takes place 25 years after the bombs drop. This is, you know, less than 200, or it is 200 or something. It's close. It's 200 years after.
I think 76 in this storyline are about as close as you can get as opposed, you know, as far as the video games are concerned, from what I read.
No, 76 is 25 years after bombs drop. This one is set after all the games, and so Fallout 4 is 200 years in the future, or after the bombs drop. This one's like 20 or some odd years after that. It's pretty. They did that, I think, because, well, I think they're just trying to keep everything in a timeline rather than jump around, which is good. So that's why you could be right. Like, maybe we could see some of that. But there's one, obviously a Deathclaw, but then, are you familiar with the Mysterious Stranger character? So the Mysterious Stranger is a perk. You'll find this out in 4. I think it's in Luck, but there's like a small % chance that while you're in VATS or you're fighting or something, the Mysterious Stranger will show up and one-shot whatever you're fighting. Right?
Wasn't that in 76 or something similar to that?
Maybe. I wasn't sure because of the fact that 76 is multiplayer and there's multiplayer PvP, but I feel like he is, but he's certainly in 3.
It's not as dangerous as that, but there's something similar to that, I think.
Yeah, he's in 3, he's in New Vegas, and he's in Fallout 4. And so a lot of people made the reference that, well, the Ghoul's kind of the Mysterious Stranger, but then some others were like, I think it would be really cool and really Fallout, because when you think about these characters, they all have like a special stat, right? In fact, Bethesda's come out and kind of said what the official special stats for each of these characters are. No surprise, but Maximus's intelligence is only a 4. So you can do with that information what you will. I don't know about Lucy and I don't know about the Ghoul. But the concept here is that, like, what if in episode 2, Lucy is fighting something that's just way outclassing her, and all of a sudden she gets a Mysterious Stranger proc, and that's the only cameo in the entire show. You know, the character, maybe it'd even be Clint Eastwood. That would be hilarious if they cast him as this. But he just makes an appearance because it's a dude with a revolver, right? Like, that's the whole thing. He one-shots this big bad that's about to do in Lucy, and then she's just like, Okie dokie. Like, it would be so Fallout for something like that to happen.
Yeah.
It would be amazing. And people might be like, oh, you know, that takes the wind out of the sails of this encounter. And it's like, no, it's much better that on the mystery. Like, it's the perfect do ex machina thing for Lucy to have happen to her. Because her luck has got to be extraordinary, you know. it's something. But yeah, so the vault. So we'll end on the vaults as far as our Fallout discussion goes. 31, 32, and 33. Going into it, Shiloh, you're like, oh, this is, you know, of course, like 30 minutes into the show, and the whole thing takes place in Fallout or Vault 33. But like, you're like, oh yeah, this is like an actual, like, you know, nice vault. They're farming, they're existing. Because as you know, the vaults there's always some catch with these things. And Vault 33 is no different. And immediately when they introduced, because they didn't show 31 right away, but immediately when they introduced the fact that they did 32 and 33 inner vault transferring, you know, for like the sake of population and whatever, I was like, okay, there's some twist here, because there always is. That's just what vaults are. Yeah. So, and then of course at the very end with Norm, we get the reveal of 31 and the fact that it's hardly a vault as much as it's a cryo chamber for all of these Vault Tech executives, or some junior executives or whatever. So
yeah, Buds.
That Bud Askins, that character, he was annoying, but that was the point, you know. It made sense. But yeah, that 32 stuff, when Norm and Chet first go there and see all like the dead bodies and all this stuff, and it makes sense in hindsight now why people were killing each other in there, like, because they see all the skeletons, you know, at each other's throats, people stabbed up against a wall with a foosball pole, you know, because they found out that they were being inundated with a bunch of Vault Tech employees in 31. It's fascinating to me. What about Vault 4, Shiloh? What's your opinion on Vault 4?
Oh man,
where do you begin? Would you live in Vault 4?
No, it's
you wouldn't join the cult.
Freaky. No, cult's a little much. I didn't really completely understand exactly what. Maybe I missed something. Exactly why they worshipped Moldover.
So she was in charge of Shady Sands before it got nuked by Hank McClane. So she, and as you know in Fallout, there's a cult of the Mothman, you know, so it doesn't take much for people in this universe to make a cult. Right. People are making cults like garage bands in the 80s. You know, you got a cult, I got a cult. Just like podcasts, you got a podcast.
Everyone gets a podcast.
So that makes sense. Right. It makes sense in that it's just ridiculous, right?
Yeah, and all these people are basically carry either refugees from Shady Sands or
maybe leftover test subjects from Vault 4 is what it sounds like.
Yeah.
So that's why they have Cyclops eye and nose on their forehead, or an ear on the side of their head. And I was waiting for some weird mutation for the main creepy chick. The creepy chick being the leader, almost like the leader of this cult, the leader of the ceremony.
Right.
For the original surface dwellers. But then just everything from like that moment to when they let Lucy go with like 2 weeks of ration. Like they're, all right, we're going to banish you.
Oh, that was hilarious.
Because in their mind, you know, it's like the best and most safe place in the entire world is in Vault 4. And so this is a death sentence to send you up there. And she's like, that's exactly where I needed to go. I wanted to go.
Yeah,
It's just that whole scene's great.
Chris Parnell has that sword, and,
Yes, he's like,
Lucy's just like,
oh, this really needs to be sharpened.
very, very good. And he's like, oh, hold on a second, don't worry, we'll have someone carry that up for you. When she's looking at this big box of supplies. And then, of course, Maximus comes in and ruins everything, thinking he's a big hero.
Yep.
But yeah, there's so good. In classic Fallout too, when they show up at the hospital with the medical supplies on the door, and they're just like, "Yeah, that's what we need," and then fall down a chute.
That is Fallout. Yeah, that's straight out of a game. In fact, I think there's something like that in Fallout 4 where you get dropped into a subterranean. It might even be they took that straight from Fallout 4. I'm gonna have to play Fallout 4 again, Shiloh. I think
I'm gonna have to play again.
One of
by
them.
that I mean more than 2 or 3 hours, I suppose.
Yeah, get through the main story at least.
So actually play the game, really.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's so good. The whole show was just a love letter to the Fallout universe and fans. And, in most cases, like, you either get a love letter to the fans or you get good acting and good writing. And very few times, I think, do those things come together. The Last of Us is a good example. Arcane. It just so happens that we've had a good, decent amount of these examples recently, but you got Arcane, Cyberpunk Edge Runners. But then to be first live action, Last of Us, and now Fallout, like, it nailed it. So I couldn't be happier. As far as where I think the season 2 is going, obviously New Vegas. I think we'll probably get some resolution on what happened to Coop's wife. It's not clear to me what...
I think we'll get any resolution, but I think we'll get another hint. And basically, I'm hoping that the season is basically almost a delve into Robco and a lot of robots, a lot of figuring out exactly where Cooper's wife could be and where Lucy's dad, Hank, could be as well. They're basically following Hank, I think. And trying to get to the head of the snake to also basically find the two of them, both Cooper's ex-wife and Lucy's dad, probably two peas in a pod somewhere. So yeah, I hope we get lots of interesting new cast of characters out in the New Vegas area. More adventures. I love the way they've set it. It makes you wonder what is Maximus's role going in season 2 going to be. Maybe we don't necessarily care all that much.
He's going to become a knight for sure. Yeah.
So he's going to have power armor.
Yes.
Given to him, and it'll be interesting to see what all he gets into with basically Cooper
Norm.
and Lucy and dog meat.
Yeah,
the dog is now with them. So,
and then Norm in the vault, because the robot or Bud's brain, Robo brain. Yeah. He's like, well, you could get in your dad's cryopod, but otherwise you're gonna die.
Or eat rad roaches.
Yeah.
He's like, no, I think I'll get in the pod.
So it'll be interesting to see what that means, what that looks like for them. But yeah, there's a whole lot of potential for this next season. I'm excited at the very least. So,
yeah, I almost wish, I don't know why, but because it was nice to be able to binge watch it whenever I wanted to, but I think it almost would have done the show a little bit of good if it had released almost like the Rings of Power and do a week by week.
Oh yeah, or like the Mandalorian and other.
Yeah, because it adds that whole. Not that I work in a place that has a water cooler, but that whole idea of did
what's
you watch
happen?
Meeting at the water cooler on Monday and talking, building up hype for it. Because I think a lot of people are going to talk about it and then a month from now, no one will. It'll be kind of a one and done thing rather than I don't know, 2 month thing. Maybe they didn't want to run into issues, or maybe Amazon was just testing the waters on it. I don't know, but
it feels so. It's hard to say because they put so much care into the creation of this that it's like, did they not expect it to do well? I mean, to be
maybe
fair,
they were a little scared of it. I don't know.
Yeah, to be fair, like video game adaptations traditionally haven't done the greatest. Mm-hmm. But I mean, with the reception this one's got, like, yeah, this is probably one of Prime's best endeavors so far.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it could have just been a suit decision, Bezos, and I don't think Bezos has anything to do with this, but whoever the suits that run this would be like, I don't know, it's video game stuff. Just give it to them all at once, Probably we'll scrap the project after, this season and move on from there.
Can't, because it is. In fact, I think it's probably the shoe-in. Well, for sure, I don't know what else there is, but it's the shoe-in for best video game adaptation at the Game Awards. Like, no contest. Oh, yeah. Just plain as day. Like, it will win that award unless there's something in the pipeline that I just don't remember that's going to just clearly, But there's no way it's gonna win. You've heard it here first. So.
Yeah. Didn't even know that was an award, but sure, yeah.
It is, because Arcane won it, and then The Last of Us won it this last year, so I think, yeah. Okay, well, that's Fallout. Loved it. If you haven't watched it, and for some reason you listened to that, well, go watch it anyway, because it's just as entertaining, even if you know what's going to happen. But... I've got one last thing. It's this book report for a non-video game book, but something that I felt carried the spirit of Life is Strange exceptionally well. So we will take a look at that.
All right, class. Settle down. It's time for book reports. Coniff, why don't you kick us off?
So I've got in front of me this book, Fredrik Backman, Beartown. Apparently, it is an HBO original series, but it's not on Max, so I don't understand it. But let me read this back to you in my best ad read voice, Shiloh.
Okay.
And upon reading this, you can tell me if you would ever even read this or whatnot, but I'll get into a little bit of it and then we'll close the episode. But a tiny community deep in the forest, Beartown hasn't been the best at anything in a long time. But down by the lake stands an old ice rink, and in that ice rink, Kevin, Amat, Benji, and the rest of the town's junior ice hockey team are about to compete in the national semifinals. And they actually have a shot at winning. All the hopes and dreams of this place now rest on the shoulders of a handful of teenage boys. Under that heavy burden, the semifinal match becomes the catalyst for a violent act that will leave a young girl traumatized and a town in turmoil. This is a story about a town and a game, but even more about loyalty, commitment, and the responsibilities of friendship, the people we disappoint even though we love them, and the decisions we make every day that come to define us. In this story of a small forest town, Fredrik Backman has found the entire world. Did that sound good? Did that sound like a proper ad read?
Yeah. Well, good. I mean, you've got the voice for it. So.
Well, when we podcast, I just kind of chit chat in my normal voice. But if I have to turn it on, I will. So, what are your thoughts right away? So I just finished this yesterday, and this might be the fastest I've read a 400+ page book because I just got this on. Maybe it's been a week because Fallout kind of put a damper on it. But I just got it either this Tuesday or 2 Tuesdays ago, I think it was. Either way, I read like 100 pages on Friday and then another 100 yesterday. So I was burning through this thing.
Wow. It sounds good. Yeah, it reminded me to check on the Predators Canucks game. You mentioned hockey. So
Yes.
hockey playoffs are going on, and my Nashville Predators are playing the Vancouver Canucks, and they are tied at 0-0.
Great work.
So I'm not missing a whole lot. But anyway, yeah, I'd probably read that. It sounds interesting.
So I don't have any interest in the world about hockey or for hockey. Never have. Of course, like, the Midwest, like, although you're in the Midwest and you're talking about hockey at the NHL level. So this is set in, they never say, but it's somewhere in Europe. Fredrik is from, oh goodness, I don't know if they have that little bit about him. It's somewhere in Europe, right? Where where apparently hockey is a big deal.
Czechoslovakia or
No.
Finland.
Swedish. So Sweden. Okay. The book in Sweden is called Bjornstead. And this was originally published in Swedish. And so that, without getting into too much of the mechanics of reading, I guess, the translation, the prose, everything is really good in this book. Very well written. Now, here's the thing. So, again, I don't care about hockey, but this book it's about hockey, obviously. But it's more about the characters. And so, how, like, when you play Life is Strange, and you played True Colors, right? With, I can't even remember her name, but then Steph, obviously. Yeah. So that had a moderately sized cast of characters, but I think like the first Life is Strange had a bigger cast of characters. That's kind of where this one is, and the reason I keep comparing this to Life is Strange is because, like, when you play Life is Strange, you're playing as Max, and so you're getting Max's story, but like you get all these cutscenes of these other characters, especially at like the ends of each of those episodes when there's like the little like montages of what all the different characters are doing. But as you're reading like text messages from characters or all this stuff, like you're getting this like inside glimpse of how this character's life is going, with everything that's going on in the story. And this book does pretty much the same thing where it's a wide range of characters, like a pretty big cast. There's at least 4 or 5 on the hockey team. There's the coach of the hockey team, the coach of the A team, the general manager, the president, the general manager's entire family. So that's his wife and his 2 kids. Then you've got the parents of all the main hockey kids. And then you've got these side characters. And every single one of those and that's a lot of characters. Every single one of those characters is given a chance to develop in this book. Like sometimes, as you can see, find a good page. It'll probably be better in the back because that's where it really jumps. So like, you can see for our YouTube viewers in Shiloh, like multiple paragraphs, right? Each of those paragraphs might shift between different, like this paragraph's about this character and what's happening, and then the next paragraph's about a different character. But because it's a small town, right? So it works in that way. But because everything is so intertwined in this story and all these characters are intertwined based on this thing that happens, it's just done so well, and all the character development works exceptionally well when you're given like these little tidbits here and these tidbits here. And his writing's really good. So it really felt like a Life is Strange novel to me. just this, and of course it probably helps that it's about high school kids and their parents and, you know, all this, but I would recommend it. It's a trilogy, apparently. So there's this book, and then there's the next book in the series, and then a final book. And this was a coworker lent this to me, and so I need to go and she's probably already read the second and third book, so I need to go get the second one from her and read it. But I think you would like it. Of course, like, it's a departure from fantasy and sci-fi and like all that stuff. But as far as like, let's see, I've read 5 books this year: The Road, The Fellowship of the Ring, Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. The Road, Fellowship of the Ring, Tomorrow and Tomorrow, Tomorrow. The one I talked about, what was it called? The Road to Neverwinter. Whatever, it's right here. That is it. Honor Among Thieves, The Road to Neverwinter. And then this one. The Fellowship is obviously like legendary, but so far this one has been my most enjoyable read of the year. Like, it was just hard to stop reading. You know, I was like, I needed to know what this character was thinking of this event, or, you know, how things are going to play out. So very good book. I recommend it. But yeah, apparently it's an HBO miniseries. No, an HBO original series. I'm afraid to look it up because I don't want spoilers. I don't know, maybe there will be, but I don't want spoilers for the second book. So let me do this for you, Shiloh, and listener. The opening line of this book, the opening paragraph, you can see right here. This is the first chapter. And then there's chapter 2 immediately following that. The opening chapter is: late one evening toward the end of March, a teenager picked up a double-barreled shotgun, walked into the forest, put the gun to someone else's forehead, and pulled the trigger. This is the story of how we got there. That's literally the first chapter of this book. And I can't say anything else, because if you do read it, like, what you expect is not what, you know, like, the rug's pulled out from under you and it's very good. So yeah, that's that.
Nice.
That's all she wrote. That's all she wrote about Fallout. A lot of good non-video game stuff I've been doing, you know, watching Fallout, reading this book. Sometimes that's just the way it is. You get into like these seasons of not wanting to waste, it's almost, you know, like waste time, but like, I don't know, you just don't want to sit down at a computer or Xbox and continue grinding something out. But now that I've finished this book and I've finished Fallout, guess what I've got to go do? You know, back to it, I guess.
Yep, get the Heaven Sword.
Yes. All right, well, any other thoughts, Shiloh, on Beartown, Fallout, Destiny 2, how to survive a free-falling elevator?
No.
Anything?
No. Like we first mentioned, don't listen to Shiloh if you are in a free-falling elevator.
Yes.
Don't do any of the things that I mentioned.
And probably don't take Fallout as a survival guide for post-apocalyptic wasteland.
Yeah, neither one of those things. Don't listen to Shiloh if you're ever trapped in an elevator, and don't use the golden rule of Fallout as a whole, except for what Lucy says as the golden rule, not what Cooper.
I still think my favorite line is when she enters the Super Duper Mart and she sees the Mr. Handy. And she's like, "What the fudge?" And the robot's like, "There's no fudge here." Oh, it's so good. So
that whole
inner
the Super Duper Mart was really, really good.
Yes, I agree.
Codsworth.
Well,
this won't hurt a bit.
Thank you, listener, for spending an hour and almost 40. Well, it will be after the credits and everything are added to it. Of your time. We appreciate it. We will talk to you in the next episode. I think the next episode is a board game episode. I need to check,
it is.
But there we have it. So that'll be fun. We'll bring Jordan back, and I have some thoughts on some board games. So,
Okie dokie. Questing the Multiverse is brought to you in part by Coniff Productions, House Wood Designs, and Joel Crawford. To follow along with our adventures, please follow us on Twitter at QTM Podcast and consider joining our Discord, the link of which can be found in the show notes or in our Twitter bio. Want your questions or comments read on the show? Email us at questingthemultiverse@gmail.com. Finally, if you enjoyed this episode, please consider giving us a review or a follow wherever you listen to podcasts. Thank you for listening.